You ever have challenges being grateful? Would you like to be more grateful so you can experience more abundance and money coming into your life? Well, if you answered yes to that question, you're certainly going to want to stick around all the way to the end of this podcast episode. We had on Tim Foote, and he has an incredible story on how he was just pulling doors, as what they call, and just going after rejection and dwindling his savings account and not sure what he was going to be able to do. But then he had a breakthrough and was able to really start providing for himself. And that was just the start. Now he's gone on to do some amazing things with his company, and a core foundation of it all comes from his gratitude practice that he does every single morning. So he's going to share with you that gratitude practice so that you can implement that into your life and experience all the abundance that comes with it. So you're not going to want to miss this episode of the Just Grow podcast. Before we do jump in, want to let you know about Just Grow Vision. So question I have for you is that, do you ever feel like you're kind of self-sabotaging and you don't even really know why? Well, typically it's because of the subconscious mind and the way it's programmed, because our subconscious mind is constantly being programmed, and it's whether you want to be programming it for success, or what a lot of people do and don't even know it is they're not programming it for success, and that's why they're not experiencing any of the results that they want in their life. So if you would like to elevate your income and your business by elevating your mindset and your subconscious mind by programming it correctly, head on over to justgrowvisions.com, where we have a free video that shows you exactly how we do this and how we have a really cool tool that'll help you expedite this process. So without further ado, let's get in this podcast interview with Tim Foote.
The way I've learned, especially over the past years, is a lot of people let life happen to them.
Yep.
Rather than figuring out why it happened for them. Because I think a lot of people are just afraid to ask that question. So, like, when I had a loss in my family, I can honestly say I didn't appreciate it. No one does, but I didn't initially look for the reason why. But then it voluntarily taught me more about my family member. I learned more about them after they passed away than when they were alive. Mm-hmm. So I think that's when that kind of helped me to realize, I need to look for like why something happens. I need to find reasons why it happened for me, because that's what started to really like fuel my purpose and what I want to do and where I want to be in 10 years. And then the people around me helped me think further out with a vision towards what I want, where I want to be, who I want to impact, rather than what am I going to do this weekend. So then when I started thinking about where do I want to, like, who do I want to impact in 10 years, that's when I started to really show up more intentionally for that day. Yeah. Because if you know you're going to show up differently for yourself in 10 years, you're going to impact more people differently in 10 years, your days are going to, I think, go a lot faster because you're doing more in those days, but you're going to get where you want to be quicker too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I've always heard that like one of the keys to success is depth of vision. Mm-hmm. And there's this kind of adage of, I don't know if it was like a short anecdote, but it was like they would go up to different people in the company. Mm-hmm. They'd go to the janitor, say, how's things going? He's like, oh, great day.
Yeah.
And then they go to the next employee. Great week.
Yeah.
They go to the manager. Oh, great month. The CEO. Great decade. Mm-hmm. You know, and just thinking that long term. And I've been reading this book by Dr. John Demartini. Have you ever followed his work?
No, I haven't.
It's really good. But he said like the key to wealth is again depth of vision and capital. Mm-hmm. So it all, it's very important to have that vision. I mean, that's why I've done all this. Like, I think unless you have a vision, you don't really, I think in today's day and age, you don't really have a chance to have a vision. Because what a vision also does for you, it gives you a decision-making framework.
Yeah.
Where it's like, people ask you, oh, do you want to go out to Old Town tonight?
Yep.
And you're like, well, I'm building this company or I'm building this team, and that's going to help generations to come and their generations and families of theirs and family of my family, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And now when someone asks you, hey, do you want to go pop bottles in Old Town? You're like, I'm not saying there's anything bad or inherently wrong with it, but when you have that and you realize like, okay, do I want to go get fucked up for a night and have the hangover for a day to a week, depending on how old you are?
Exactly.
Or do you want to like keep building? And it just depends on what you want to do. And again, like there's absolutely nothing wrong with being an employee. We need plenty of employees in this world, but it's just important to know what you want and where your vision is, because then you know what to do. Because if your vision is, I just want to have fun and enjoy myself because this is that phase of my life, then by all means, do whatever you want. But it's just like know what you want.
Yeah, it's gonna add more weight to your decisions, because now whenever you get asked if you want to go to Old Town, if you get asked if you want to go on a trip, if you get asked if you want to go to dinner instead of show up for a meeting, that was just the yes or no question of, does this add or get me closer to where I'm gonna be, or does it make me go 2 steps back, or does it just put it on pause? But let's be honest, being put on pause is two steps back anyways. Yeah. So yeah, I 100% agree with that, because if especially if you don't have a clear depth of vision. Because when I first started down, building a business or being an entrepreneur, I just wanted to make a paycheck. So I was thinking like an employee, which isn't a bad thing, but it's not going to serve your mission, and you can't even you can't even work to serve a mission if you don't know what it is. So I think the first step to finding my vision was realizing what's possible, which is actually pretty limitless when you actually sit down and figure it out. And then when I talked with my mentors, and I found a mentor, which I think is very key, that he really helped open my eyes to what was actually possible. Not just because he'd already done it, but it's because once you set a goal, it seems unrealistic, but then once you break it down into steps, now you have a plan. Yeah. And then it becomes achievable. Yeah. So that's what I think has been the most key part in my life, especially over the past year, because I've learned more over the past year than I have in my entire life. I've also lost the most money over the past year than I have in my entire life, but I've also made the most money. And it's all been because I was always having my eye on where I'm going to be in 10 years from now. So therefore, like, if I lose money, it doesn't matter. If I gain a lot of money, it doesn't matter. It's all lessons towards being able to handle the responsibilities of what I want to achieve in the future.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
The thing that I was going to respond to that, and I mean, obviously we're already rolling. That's the way these conversations happen now. Yeah. Like, it's never like, hey, we're starting.
Yeah. It's just like, it's just, well, that's the way it should be. It's an actual conversation.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say to that is a couple of things, because this has been in my awareness for especially the last couple months, is how vital it is to, like what you said, have a mentor. But what's the reasoning behind that? I always like to dissect and dive a little bit deeper and like reverse engineer things on why they are important. Yeah. And so what I come up with, well, I don't know if I'm the person that's come up with it, but it's just
what you found.
What's going on in my head. Is I think the thing that governs our entire life is our identity. And our identity is governed by our subconscious mind. And so if you're not intentional about how you're programming your subconscious, then it's just gonna,
disappear.
It's like, it's a fart in the wind,
It's gone.
And so how do you program your subconscious? Because the metaphor that I always like to give, it's like you're walking up the escalator of success. That's your conscious mind. Yeah. The thing that controls about like 5%. But the escalator is your subconscious mind, and that carries about 95%, if not more. Yeah. And the escalator is going down usually because of the negative programming going on in this world. Yeah, it's media, everywhere. The food, the water, like most people in this world. Yeah. So it's like, how do you get that escalator going up? And so I believe that there's 4 things. 1, affirmations. Now, all these have different weights too, because like there will be people that will poo-poo on affirmations and say those don't work. And I'm not saying like those are going to be the thing. Like you say 5 affirmations a day for 30 days, your life's probably not going to change that much, but it's going to help. It's like, what I like to say, it's like a scale. And you're putting rocks or pebbles or boulders on the scale to tip your identity in whichever direction.
Yeah.
I'm successful or I'm not successful, essentially. So I think affirmations are like pebbles. So you put them on, you keep stacking them, they start like slowly moving the needle. Then I believe visualizations is so key, like seeing that in your mind and feeling it. And those are kind of like more so the rocks.
Yeah.
And then actions is like taking those difficult actions, doing the things that you know you're supposed to do, but like, you know, the challenging ones, the ones that get your heart racing. And then coming back to my original point here is people, mentors.
Yeah.
Because they have the mindsets and they have the beliefs and they have the identity that you want. Right?
Yeah.
And so when you get around those type of people and they start explaining things to you, and it's basically shifting your mindset and changing your paradigm, because maybe you had a limiting belief and they just fucking shattered that, because they're like, where you said, oh yeah, it's so difficult to make 10K a month. They're like, I make 100K a month and I only work 5 hours a week.
Yep.
And because you believe them and you see the proof and you see that they are doing this, you're like, that's truth. Immediately shifts your paradigm, immediately shifts your beliefs.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, sorry, it's a long
So
story
it's true.
on why mentors are so important.
Yeah, because I mean, like you said before, visualizations are key. That's real life. That's very visual. It's tangible.
Yeah.
You can see it. And what I found is too, to add on to having the mentor, to having the visualization, if you have a target or a goal, you can't hit it if you can't see it. So you really have to either create the vision so you can see it, create those goggles so you can actually see where you're aiming, and then go for it. But too many people, I think, are afraid to pull the trigger because they might miss. So what if you miss? You learned your lesson, where to aim.
Yeah.
It's like it's all the beautiful part about life.
Well, let's dive into this, because like, I think fear, procrastination, self-sabotage, again, those kind of come back to the results of your subconscious not being programmed correctly, programmed in a direction that's not serving you.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like when you just tell someone that, like when their subconscious is, their escalator is programmed down, you tell them, you just got to take action. You might be scared, but you just got to do it. That's very difficult for them.
Yeah.
So I want to get into your story a little bit, because you started to tell me about how, like, you haven't had, you told me, but I'm curious, after you told me about your grandmother, you haven't had too many like painful experiences in your life. You haven't had something that like really broke you, that was allowed you to build you up. But how did you get to the point where you were able to take those fearful actions and you were able to become a leader, a young leader in this company that you're a part of?
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I have the question right. How did I get to that point where I finally like hit a breakthrough?
Yeah, I mean, what was there? Is there a point where there was a breakthrough, or was it just like naturally kind of progressed, or like?
Yes.
You said this last year has been the most pivotal year of your life.
Yeah.
What changed?
I went all in on myself. I was always surrounded by the worldview that live life on the safe side, which is fair to say, but it also depends on what you want. If you want more out of life, if you want to, more importantly, if you want to impact more people with your life, it's not very safe. I wouldn't say it's not unsafe, but it's more scary. But just like you said, fear drives people the right way and the wrong way, but too many times it's the wrong way. So the biggest lesson I've learned leading up to that moment was just not even trying. Like not that I wasn't trying, but I wasn't going in 100%. When I went in 100%, that's when I learned the most valuable lessons of my life. When I went in 100% of, I burned the boats. I have 0 options left. So it's either this is going to work or there is no other option.
Well, give me more details. Like,
so
when you say all in, what do you mean exactly?
So all in. So I was 18 years old when I lived by myself.
Okay.
And that's when I started to like get the feel for by myself. I didn't really have many bills or anything, but when I started to be fully self-reliant, that's when I had to depend on myself. That's when I started pulling those aspects out of me and to grow them more to actually survive and then soon to thrive. So when I went all in on myself and I had people relying on me, so I'm not just relying on myself now, people are relying on me to either learn a skill or make an income that week. That's when I started to have those breakthroughs. It's like, man, this is stressful, but I'm also, if I looked back on where I was now to where I am now, it's like everything that I dealt with before is just like every day for me now. It's like, it's no problem. Mm-hmm. So the moments that pulled me out were the ones that were when I thought the worst of the worst could happen, when it really wasn't the worst of the worst. It was just like, it was smoke and mirrors.
There's new levels to everything.
It was the worst to me at that point because I hadn't experienced it yet. But that's what I would say is when the breakthroughs happens, when I fully went in on myself, to be self-reliant on myself, where I don't have an income if I can't submit PTO. There's an example. I can't submit PTO. I don't have an income if I don't show up for myself. Like, yeah, I control my own time, but I'm responsible for my own time. Like, they go together. You can't separate those two.
And so were you working a job before this?
I was. No, I was working a job before then. I didn't have the right vehicle though. So I was working at a different job where it was like my own entrepreneurial, it was a different company before. But I was working my own job and I would be driving everywhere to go create business for myself. Like, for instance, I'd go pull business doors, pull doors in business. We call it door pulling. I'd go pull a business door open to go talk to the owner.
Okay. And
never be able to see the owner because there's gatekeepers there.
Yep.
Right? And that was the most frustrating thing for me. And I knew the job was possible. But at that specific company, they weren't designed to be the only job that you work, if that makes sense. So it wasn't the right vehicle for me.
Okay.
So my breaking point was I went 5 months of trying to make that job work. I lived by myself. I had my own apartment.
So 5 months every day going and pulling doors.
5 months every day going and pulling doors. I drove, this is back in Indiana too. I would drive all over Indiana. I would say that, I think after I did the math, it was like 15,000 miles total in my car. I'm just driving.
Wow.
And pulling doors. I finally got one meeting.
One meeting?
And I made
out of how many doors?
200 repeatedly for 5 months.
Yeah.
And because I also had to go find those people too. So it wasn't like, oh, here, go talk to them. It was like, no, go find people. So that was very stretching for me. I learned a lot. I learned what to be grateful for through that experience for sure. And I learned that wasn't the right vehicle for me personally. And I got one meeting and I sat down and we made a sale.
One out of one.
Yeah. And I made $200 after 5 months and I drained my savings. So then I started seeking answers. I was like, all right, I don't think this is...
Was that after you made that sale? Then you're like...
Yeah, because I still had rent coming up. Like I had $500 in my account
and
now.
That was your breaking point where you're like, all right, I made a sale, but this isn't sustain.
My breaking point towards going all in on myself happened when my grandma died, which was 5 months before that. And it wasn't necessarily because she died, but I just learned more of why I was doing it. Right? Because she was one of the most influential people who actually believed in me to like, yeah, you should go all in yourself. I think out of everyone in this family, you can do that. Because a lot of people that I'm surrounded by would play it safe. And I'm not to say she was or wasn't one of those people, but she was one of the people that said, you know what, go all in on it. You can handle it. You can go create something with it.
That's pretty special to have.
Yeah. And then actually it was actually on my birthday. It was the last time I remember I saw her. We went out for dinner. And then 2 weeks later, she got COVID and passed away. And, I had the opportunity to go see her in the hospital and whatnot, but I don't want to remember that. I don't want to remember the non-verbal version of it, right? Yeah. So I remembered the version that was at my birthday that told me I could be all in, and that's what I did. And then after that is when I learned about everyone she impacted. So learning as I was learning everyone she impacts in her life, like she fostered 25 kids in her lifetime. Like she loved kids. So that's when it started to feel my vision a little more. I didn't realize it was possible just yet, but I knew I wanted to go all in on myself. So that was the first breaking point. The next one was when I realized that company wasn't the company for me. It's like I can't, if I can barely pay rent, which I drained my savings to pay rent the past few months, it's like I have to go find a better vehicle. Because it's not to say that company's a bad company or not. It's just say that wasn't the right vehicle for where I want to be and what I want to do. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to someone who's my mentor on Instagram, and I said, "Hey, it looks like you're doing really well in this industry. I want to learn from you."
So was it a similar industry, that other company?
Yeah, it was another insurance company.
Gotcha.
And so I reached out to my mentor, and I just like, and it's one of those things where it's like, it's someone that you don't think you can reach, right? And I want to make sure that this story encourages everyone else. Like, don't be afraid to just reach out to anybody.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to do that, because the worst that happens is they don't answer. But my mentor answered me. My mentor now answered me.
First time?
First time. He encouraged me to keep going originally, and then I asked for a chance to work with him and learn from him, and he gave me that chance. $500 in my account. I began training. We have the script to go over, because we want to make sure we obviously say the right things. We want to like not, it's not that you don't want to lie. Like, we're not there to lie. We're there to tell the truth. But I want to make sure we say it in the right boundaries, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And it's there to also help you communicate to those people, like why they need life insurance, why they don't need life insurance. And I memorized the scripts, and then I went back to my mentor, and it was like a 13-page script. So I have composition books just writing out full back home.
Okay.
And he said, "Yeah, that's not the right one. It's the wrong scripts. You gotta go memorize it."
So you memorized the wrong script.
I memorized the wrong scripts.
Why was it?
It wasn't.
Look back. Why did that happen?
Because they were changing some things. They gave me the older script.
Gotcha.
That was what happened. So it was a mistake. So there's an adversity there that I could have been like, no, screw this, right? But I said, okay. I had rent coming up in 1.5 weeks, and it was like a $2,000 rent bill. I had $500 in my account. So I was like, all right, no, we're gonna make this happen. So got the right script and memorized it in 3 days. Came back to my mentor, and I went 2 for 2 my first day and made my $2,000 rent check that week. So
some of that.
That was really like the breakthrough for me. It's like not just going all in on yourself, but going all in on yourself on the right company, because you gotta be surrounded by the right people. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of negativity at the other company that I was at. It wasn't the right vehicle. It wasn't, here's a solution to your opportunity here. It was, well, just keep going. That's not really a solution. Like, if you keep going against the wall, it's pretty much the definition of insanity, right? Yeah. But it's more like, how do you get around the wall? So like around here in this vehicle that I have now, I'm very blessed to be surrounded by those right mentors, like we talked about earlier. Be surrounded by the people who are there to encourage you every day. Be surrounded by the people that challenge your thinking, because I think that's the most important part.
Yeah.
Because you can bring a problem to anybody, but the right people are going to help you think about finding the right solution, not just give it to you. Because that's really where learning begins, honestly.
Yeah.
So that was the breakthrough. That wasn't my breakthrough to find purpose, but that was my breakthrough to realize what I was capable of.
Now you have proof.
Yeah.
Right? And it kind of comes back to, that's what I would categorize that like part 3. Like, you took the difficult action.
Yeah.
Most people, in all likelihood, would have just folded in that situation and like go found some job and probably, I don't know. Like, but it's interesting.
Delayed it at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When your back's against the wall, then you have no other options to go, and you send it.
Yeah. I think that's where the most learning happens, is when you have no choice but to learn.
And then you feed your brain proof that you're like, oh shit, I can actually do this, which then starts building the belief stronger. You're like, if I can do that, like, what else is possible? Yeah.
That's so true. Because I think I understand the fear people have, because I had it. Yeah. They're afraid to be put against the wall, because it's like, well, what if it doesn't work? Well, don't think like that. Like, what if it does work? Like, what are the lessons you're going to learn by it not working? The worst that can happen is maybe you pass away tomorrow and then it's over, but is that what's going to happen in that situation, whatever you're facing? Or are you going to have consciousness to actually learn from what you just did so you can do it better next time?
Like, you can't think positively and negatively at the same time.
No.
That's something that I've heard it before, but it came up recently. It just made so much sense. Like, for example, in your situation, the situation was you got like a couple weeks to pay rent.
Yeah.
And now you have a choice on whether you want to think positively or you want to think negatively about that.
Mm-hmm.
You have the choice to feel the feelings of positivity or negativity. You have the choice to see things in your mind, positivity or negativity.
Yeah.
You can't do both
Mm-mm.
at the same time. You can alternate.
Yeah.
But again, I always like to come back to that scale. If you keep alternating, then it's like this.
Yeah.
Right?
Then you're going back and forth. You're not being consistent.
Or if you can just keep going and thinking positively and doing the right actions, get around the right people, then experience the results based on the actions, and you start to build that belief.
Yeah.
So it all is just a mindset shift,
Mm-hmm.
and then take the right actions.
Yeah, because what you focus on grows. If you're going to focus on positivity, it's going to grow. And I think sometimes people I think are afraid to think positively, because, maybe, let's be honest, society's not positive.
No.
It's probably, I can go on the internet right now within 5 seconds and see something negative on the news. So like,
news.
it's just bloated for ratings right now to get attention, which is marketing. So news is marketing. It's not to say there's not news in the world that's important, but is it really worth digging through all that news to go find what's important if you can't even make a change in that yet? Because the way I see it is make a change in yourself, make a change in your family, make a change in your community, and then make a change in the world. You can't go from not make a change in yourself to make a change in the world. So it's not to say it's not important, but again, if you're focused on the news or the negativity in it, your negativity is going to grow. So focus on the positive actions you can take to become the best version of yourself to impact your family. And then once you impact them, impact the communities in the world. It all goes together.
I remember seeing, I think it was right as COVID was starting, a guy that I followed online, that's a pretty smart dude. And he was saying a very similar thing to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, it's very difficult to make any positive change on anybody if you're down here yourself.
Yeah.
Right? I just think he's like, dude, just go make a bunch of money so that you can actually impact people.
Mm-hmm.
And make some positive change. Like,
yeah.
That's kind of just the reality. And obviously you want to do it, in a way that like it stays aligned to you. You're not just going and getting like some soul-sucking job.
Yeah.
That's going to help you make a bunch of money.
If it's not going to feed the positivity to make the change, why be there?
But it's just like, it's interesting. Like you can't have any change if you're just like broke and stuck. And I tried that for a while.
I think we all have to a point.
Yeah, it was interesting. This like opens up my perspective in a few different ways because, before I started this podcast, I always really wanted to help people.
Yeah.
And, I did to a certain degree, but it was like, people didn't really listen to me a little bit here and there.
Yeah. But
like once I started building this up and everything else I'm doing, then it's like people actually start listening.
Mm-hmm.
Do you follow Alex Hormozy?
Yeah.
So I was having a conversation with a friend today about him. And I think this is very interesting because, everybody's on this wave of the short form content.
Yep.
Whatever that is. About like the Hormozy style content.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if I just make some clips talking to the camera, having the subtitles with the emojis, like if I just do that consistently long enough, then all of a sudden like I'm gonna be the next Hormozy. But in the reality, the reason why Hormozy's done so well is because he's wicked smart.
Yeah.
And he has the credibility to back him up.
Yeah, his story is incredible.
Done $100 million, whatever. I think it's way more than that. But it's like, that's why people are listening to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good communicator. And he's really smart and knows a lot of things.
Yeah.
If you just think that, like, okay, well, I'm going to go make a bunch of reels and now people are going to listen. Like, you have to, like, work your ass off and program your mind, have the right mindset, get to that point where, like, people are actually listening to you.
Yeah. Alex is a really inspiring dude, too. But the thing is, like, people don't realize he was broke before.
Oh, yeah. He was sleeping on gym floors.
He was sleeping on gym floors. He lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in a day, but then he also gained it back in a day. But yeah, the short form video stuff works. Yeah, being consistent works, but
Yep.
Alex's story is backed up by all of that. He's not just famous, if that's what people want to get, just because he posts short form. He just helps people the best way that way. Like Alex is where he's at because on his platform is there to serve people.
Yeah.
That's his mission. And that's the other thing I found too. When you find your vision, make sure it's impacting people. And it's not to say that people shouldn't want the yacht or they shouldn't want the cars. But you're going to be driven more when you have a focus of who am I going to impact in 10 years? How many, like my vision in 10 years personally, I want to impact 1 billion people. Like I want to change a generation. That's my vision. That's when I started operating 10x levels every day. Because now I have purpose.
Yeah.
Like people want a lot of money, but they don't go after it because they don't know why. They don't know why they want money. But when you have a reason and a purpose and a mission for it, you're going to show up for yourself every day for it. Because that's what they're doing. They're not showing up for themselves. The fame's not the answer. It's like the story that it takes to get there so you can impact the people with the platform, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's the process of getting there too.
Yeah.
You know, interesting, I was talking to my friend today, and anybody that would look at his life would be like, I want that. Like, he literally works the 4-hour work week. Because it was funny because I was asking him.
The new rich.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, he runs this, he does some wild things. But I was like, dude, like, and he was even asking me questions of like, dude, I feel like I'm just like not. Like it took him a second to get it out, but he's like, yeah, I feel like I'm happy right now. And I was like, okay, well, like where are you putting most of your time? Or like, how much time you put into all this? He's like, dude, I literally work 4 hours a week and I make stupid money.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because he said, you know, I think I kind of miss like having my back against the wall.
Really?
He's like, that's why I operate the best. And that's why like I don't feel like super fulfilled right now. So it's like that put things crazy into perspective for me. Because I feel like right now I'm still in very much a building phase. Yeah. And it's like some days I'm just like,
Yeah. Man, this whole week just took 10 steps back.
But it's just like, you know, that just like what he said, he almost, even though like he has like the life that everyone desires. Yeah. It was like he was almost, I was telling him my story and he's like, it was almost like he had envy for where I'm at, of just like being on the come up and like having this like day-to-day pressure of like, I gotta get this shit done. Yeah. And it's just interesting because it's like, you never know what everyone's going through and you never know what's like once you get there, which you don't ever really get there, but it's like once you like achieve and become that, it's like maybe that's not even what it was all cracked up to be. Maybe the most beautiful time about all of it is right now in the struggle, in the beginning stages. Yeah. How did you find your purpose?
Going back to my grandma, actually. That's because originally, like when I first found the vehicle I'm in now, I was asked the question, what do I want to be? Right? And the answer I came up with is, I want to take my family on vacation. They impacted me, they developed me, they grew me. I think a lot of people would say that though. Not everybody, but I think everyone would have that mindset of, it'd be cool to earn $10,000 a month and take your family on vacation. But then I started to realize what was actually possible. It's like, then I started to realize like what I could actually do, what I could achieve. Like $10,000 a month isn't the end game. Like that's just the beginning. That's just a scratch of the surface. And it's not to say that, 10,000 is a little or 10,000 is a lot, but it's like, what if you get 20,000? What if you don't put a limit on it? What if you make 100,000 a month? So I found my purpose when I learned about and thought about as well my grandma and who she impacted, how she impacted people. And then it really developed when I realized what was possible. So like I said before, like my grandma was one of the most loving people in the world. Yeah. She'd pull someone off the street and invite us to a family Thanksgiving, that type of person. Wow. She's really special. And she had like 300 people at her funeral. So I was like, wow, she impacted a lot of people. But then I also found out she had 25 foster kids in her lifetime. She adopted. Not just my mom and my uncle and my aunt, my other aunt. Like she adopted kids too. and foster. It's like, wow, she'd love people. So my vision fully developed. I was like, I want to make sure my grandma's remembered. I want to make sure that people, like, because we need more of that in the world. We need more people to love those people in the world, because if you want to fix the world, you got to fix the beginning generation, because that's the next part of the world. Mm-hmm. So my vision fully developed when I realized that's what my grandma was doing. She was loving people unconditionally. She was serving people unconditionally. So my vision became like, I want to open up those like kids clubhouses all across the U.S. That's my vision. I want to impact. That's how I want to impact billions, because those are the kids that need the most help, are the ones that don't have the right mentors. Just like we talked about earlier, they don't have the right vehicles. Those are the people that need the most help, I think, just because they're not in the situation to. So like, that's my vision, is I want to impact those people. So that's how I developed it, was, going through the struggles, like realizing the importance of a mentor, realizing the importance of a vehicle, and then also just like how my own grandma like just loved people. It's like, I want to do that on the max level. That's when I started showing up for myself with more purpose. And then what I found too is when you start leading people and helping people on your own team, now their why is your why. Because now you're showing up for them. I'll show up 7 days a week for my people, because I know that one of my agents has 5 kids and a wife, and the oldest is 6. I'll show up 7 days a week for my team because I know that they need to make rent this week. Like, when I start showing up for more people and serving people at a higher level, that's when I get the most fulfillment. I'll stay up 14, 15, 16 hours a day to do that for those people, because that's my mission, is impacting people. It starts right now. If I can't impact that person today, I'm not going to impact 1 billion in 10 years. So that's how that fully developed personally.
So you see the macro in the micro.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But that's again, like, going through the struggles over the past year and a half when I actually started to fully develop in this, and like, all right, this is zero option mentality. That's when I learned those lessons. It's not just given out.
So walk us through what happened after you had that big breakthrough.
So my income that year, I used to think, I can go make, $2,000 tomorrow when I want. So then I procrastinate. So I don't have bills to end the month. I can go do whatever I want this week. I can go live the 4-hour work week.
Yeah.
Then I started to lose my habits, and habits are very important. I lost them again a little earlier due to some other things going on. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna get them back. And then I started to show up for myself, and that's when everything else started to go up. That's when my serving my team went to a higher level too, is when I got my basis mental health back. So, kind of just learning more about it, about how to show up for those people. Because I can't show up for those people if I can't show up for myself. Right? Does that answer your question, or?
Well, I'm just curious, like, what you made the $2,000.
Yeah.
And how long ago was this?
Over a year ago.
Over a year
ago. Because I started in 2021, because it was towards the end of the pandemic. But really, when it started to develop more, and when I started to show up for people more, how it affected me, it's like then my own result for myself started to be affected. Like, if we look at it from like an income standpoint, I didn't really start showing up for myself till the mid of the year, and then I started showing up for more people with more responsibility towards the middle, and then I doubled my income from the beginning of the year just to the end of the year, just because I started showing up for other people.
Yeah.
So serving other people at the high level is what really impacted that.
And how many people are you leading right now?
Between 9 and 10 on my team right now, and it's still growing. We just hired 3 more people too.
That's sick.
So yeah, it's cool to impact those people at the high level. Because my biggest breakthrough last year, because again, going back to serving people is what really helped the most, but my biggest breakthrough last year is when I trained an agent. She's a mom. She has 3 kids. And she came to me. She was ready to learn the business. She's like, all right, I'm ready to go all in on myself. Like, I've been coasting this time. It's like, all right. So we went all in on it. I trained her for about 2.5 weeks. And then the very next month she went out and she made $10,000. It's like, that was my biggest breakthrough. Is like, I just impacted a person to go out, and I just helped them change their life and their kids' life. I just showed them how to do that. Like, that was my biggest breakthrough last year, was being able to show someone that. And then I started to have that breakthrough myself. Like, if I can do that for one person, What if I did it for another? And then what if I did it for 10? What if I did it for 5? What if I did it for 200 people? Because again, if I want to impact people on the macro, I got to start with the micro. So like that was a big micro breakthrough that really started to pivot more towards I need to serve people at a higher level.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I'm very grateful to go through all the other BS too, because I helped her not go through it quicker.
Yeah, it's powerful to like, because it's like sometimes, especially as an entrepreneur, the world can get lonely.
Yeah.
And doubts will inevitably creep in.
Yeah.
And you might, I don't know if you can relate to this, but sometimes I think like, sometimes I'm like an isolated incident where like I had success, but it's because I got the hustle, I got the grit, I got the mentality, I got the, you know, I've worked so hard myself, but it's like, am I the only one that can do this?
Yeah.
But then when you see someone like you just shared and you impacted their life and then they went out and created this, you're like, oh shit, like it's possible for other people too.
Yeah.
And then it just
Compounds.
starts the ripple effect. It's interesting, this is a little side related, but I went to this emotional intelligence workshop that just helped me with myself.
I think that's the smartest thing to do too.
It was crazy, and it was interesting because it really pushed my comfort zone in so many ways, and one of the ways was enrollment, getting other people in. And so it wasn't until I enrolled one of my really great friends into it, and he just like had the biggest breakthrough and just thanked me so much for going through it and just like
That's awesome.
offering that. But even beyond that, then he enrolled his mom and his girlfriend, and they just had these like incredible breakthroughs. And I,
Wow.
like when he shared that with me, I was like, wow, like look at that ripple effect.
Yeah.
And think about this too, I think it can certainly relate to your story, but like, what if you didn't go through that challenging period of your life where you know, had barely any money, you needed to pay rent in a couple weeks, and what if you just folded?
Yeah.
What if you just said, fuck it, like this is too hard, this isn't gonna work, I'm just gonna go work at McDonald's or whatever it was.
Whoever
like,
take me.
What's that?
Or whoever will take me.
Yeah. And what if you didn't do that, and then the agent that you shared just a moment ago that you helped make $10,000, and assuming that you've helped numerous people make a lot of money, it's like, I remember hearing this, it said like, there's people that you haven't met that need you to show up.
That's powerful. That's true.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's true, and I just think about that too, because when I went to this workshop, it was such a spur of the moment, sporadic decision, and I was scared to go. I was like, oh my gosh, I know what this is gonna be. It's like getting uncomfortable, vulnerable, and just having that like internal courage that I just didn't want to face.
Yeah.
But something told me to go, and I think back to that is like, what if I didn't go? Then I wouldn't have impacted my good friend who enrolled his wife, or excuse me, his girlfriend and his mom. And they just had these emotional breakthroughs. And it's just like, then you use that proof, again, like we talked about, having that proof, and then thinking about it like, and then now you have the decision where you were like, oh, kind of want to kick my feet up and watch Netflix. Instead of like, where I want to go party, and come back to that whole thing in Old Town. Like, what if I go to Old Town tonight when I know I probably, again, there's a time and place to like relax.
Oh, there's always a time and place to celebrate, but
if you have, if you know you have like kind of that decision to make where you're like, I know I need to be working, I know I need to be putting it in right now, and then you start thinking about like, well, who are all these people that I haven't met yet that need me right now?
Yeah.
That's powerful, and you only get that perspective by going through that, by making the tough decisions and doing it.
Because then you're showing up for not just yourself. Something I learned from somebody was, if you're not going to show up for yourself, then look at what actions you're going to take next, what actions you need to take next, and then write down who they're going to impact. Like, they even went to the extent, they're a very smart person, of like, write a whole paragraph of how those people will be impacted by you accomplishing what you're going to do. So then it's not just the people that are close to you, because now you're showing up for those people, which I thought was powerful. And he's gone on to do great things. He's gone on to impact many people. I aspire to like achieve the level he has. But when you're just thinking about the people you're going to impact, what you're going to do, and then to your point, like asking yourself the question, like, who's going to be impacted by this? Or like saying, I'm excited for the people that are going to learn from what I'm going through right now. That changes your whole perspective on like, I'm going through like the worst thing in the world. This is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. Great. You get to show someone else how to go through it a lot easier than you did. And they're going to impact someone at a higher level because they also went through a different struggle, a different level. It's like, I think just asking yourselves those challenging questions and like focusing on like who's going to be impacted in the best way possible from this. Doesn't matter how bad it is. I don't think it ever matters how bad it is, because there's always a lesson to learn. There's a perspective, and you're only going to enjoy that process if you look for the lesson in it.
That's powerful.
Yeah. That's what's helped me a lot.
That's power. Like a couple things in that is like writing down all the people that this decision, you showing up for yourself, is going to impact and how it's going to impact them.
I learned that from someone else, and it helped me a lot.
How often do you do that?
It's my wallpaper. I got 5 people written down. It's my grandpa, my mentor, my agents, my mom and my dad, and my brother. Each of their names get thrown in a paragraph. And I just write out, where I'm going to be in 10 years, how it's going to impact them, and how excited I am for them to see me there. But it's the 5 people closest to me. Because again, now I'm not showing up for myself. When I stopped showing up for myself, I was showing up for myself, but when I stopped making that the focus and made the focus other people, that's when it's more enjoyable. So if I show up for myself knowing that those are the people that are going to be impacted every day, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to make the hard decision.
Wow, I think you just blew my mind. It doesn't happen a lot around here, but... And it's interesting because one of my mentors shared with me the fact that physiologically or chemically, I guess you could say, when we think about ourselves, it actually releases a small dose of cortisol.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if you knew that or not,
no.
But when he shared that with me, I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like when you are thinking about yourself, you're more likely to not feel great.
Yeah.
But when you think about others, then it actually physiologically, chemically, I don't even know how to explain it biologically.
It releases like dopamine, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, and he said that this is one of the most powerful things that you can do, is that when you are feeling bad, and you're not feeling in the greatest state, is to send a voice message to someone and share why you're so grateful for them.
Yes. That's what my life coach taught me too. He does the same thing for us too. It's saying like, if you're thinking about why you're thankful for someone else, like it does exactly what you're saying. Like it removes that bad feeling. And again, what you're focused on grows. You're focused on why you're grateful for somebody. That just helps your positivity levels more too, like we talked about earlier. So that's so true.
And I think just having the reminder of you writing it down on your wallpaper, that gets you out of your head thinking about yourself, and rather just, oh, I remember why I'm doing this. And having the reasons why too. I think, have you ever followed any of Jim Rohn, the late great Jim Rohn? Yeah,
a little bit.
I think he said that the reason that you're not successful is because you don't have enough reasons.
That's true.
And again, like exactly that exercise. Now you have, based on the biology now in our brain, we know that if we think about ourselves, it releases a small drip of cortisol. So you could come up with reasons on why you want to be successful that has something to do with you, and that would be good based on what we're saying about Jim Rohn.
Yeah.
But if you compile all this together and just say, put the reasons on the other people that you want to impact in a positive way, you have a bunch of reasons, and you're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about others. That's the ultimate tool and hack to being successful.
It's so true. And honestly, that's probably why our vehicle has been so impactful for myself and other people. It's our vehicle is literally, we call it, we live by the platinum rule. So we do more for others than we have them do for us. So I think that's part of the reason why, if you look at physiologically, is like we're literally like our mission statement is to show up more for others than we do for ourselves. And I think that's why our whole organization has been so successful, not only serving people, but also like changing lives within it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I don't have the full grasp of your guys' company, but I've had conversation with Jesse and Daniel and David.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely an energy you guys carry that is just like, whoa.
It's impacted me greatly. All those people have. All those people. Jesse was there when I made rent. David was there the phone call right after that. Like, it's a huge blessing to be around those people, and again, they help shape my mind too to be where I'm at now. So to be a part of that change is amazing. And
I think about their stories too, because they're all really incredible. Like David was dealing with his brother passing, and he failed his test numerous times, and then had to drive to a different state to take it again. And finally made it. Jessie was what'd she say? She didn't have her insurance or her driver's license, so she had to follow someone right behind them so she didn't get pulled over.
Yep.
It's just wild, and it's just what if they didn't go through all that? Then that wouldn't have impacted your life.
No.
Which then wouldn't impact the person you shared, and all the people you're going to impact, and all the people that they're going to impact.
Yep.
That's wild.
It's really cool to see everyone's story kind of domino into each other, because it's scary to think, what if that domino was taken out? What if that domino wasn't put down on time? Because it either stops or diverts. But I think we're all meant to make sure we find our spot so we do impact the next person and serve them at a higher level.
So we'll probably wrap up in here in the next about 5 minutes, but curious to this question is, let's say that someone finds their purpose. Because I mean, obviously you have your guys' vehicle and it works incredibly well. And it impacts a lot of people. What if someone finds their purpose and it's not necessarily your vehicle?
Yeah.
What would you say to them? And they found their purpose, but they're also kind of in this space where it's they're not.
Don't I?
They have their purpose, but they're still in a place where they're not quite as abundant as they want to be.
Yeah. Ask yourself why you want to be abundant. Why do you want to achieve that level? And it's not to get yourself to think, am I being selfish or not? But then I would ask yourself, what's been the most powerful for me is when I achieve that level, who do I get to impact? Who do I get to serve? Again, going back to the domino, who am I going to serve next? Or if you don't know, great. I'm excited to find out who, after me doing this, is going to be affected by this. I'm excited whose life is going to be changed by me just doing this. Because just because there's no clear vision yet there doesn't mean you're going to find it. Especially with what I've found is I didn't have a clear vision. I didn't know 8 months ago that I wanted to start those organizations. I didn't know that was my end goal. But when it finally became clear what I was able to do and what was possible, that's when I was asking myself those questions of who can I impact through this? That's when it started to become clear. So I think really when you're asking yourself, or you're afraid to start, ask yourself, what's the best case scenario? Who are you going to impact the best case scenario? And then don't be focused on the negative part of it. You're not going to fail unless you quit. But me personally, I learned don't quit on yourself. I think everyone's worth that. Everyone's worth it to themselves, so don't quit on yourself. Yeah, it's the easy decision, but make the hard one for yourself because you're worth it.
What do you do in those moments that you are just having those days or those moments?
I had one of those days yesterday. I'm going to be honest. I just paused. And a practice I've made habit in the past 60 days. A practice that I have made a habit of doing is every morning when I wake up, I look at where I'm at, financially, physically, emotionally.
And do you have are you pulling up your bank account?
Oh, I'll do everything. Yeah, I think one of the best habits, and if we go back to Alex Ramosi, is check your bank account every day. This is one of the best things you do. Not to look bad on yourself, but immediately after I do those things, whether it's good or bad where I'm at, I will open up my journal and I'll write about what I'm thankful for that day.
So how do you look at yourself? So that's, you look at your bank account for the financials.
Financials.
How do you look at yourself for your health and your relationships?
I can look at myself in the mirror. I can see my physique. I can see where I'm at. I can see my health. I can see the photos of me back when I wasn't, where I wanted to be in shape-wise. And I can look at all of that. I'm not going to think positive or negative about it. I'm just going to look at it, appreciate the progress, whether it's good or bad, because it's still progress. And then I'm going to write what I'm grateful for. And I'm going to make a whole paragraph of what I'm grateful for that day. I'm going to write a paragraph of where I'm grateful for and how it feels to be achieved where I want to be in 10 years. Because if I need to be that. But I found that I will start every day so much better when I'm starting off the day literally like processing in my brain onto paper what I'm grateful for. Because it forces you to think. And it's not the same thing every day. That's easy. It's like something different every day that I'm grateful for. Whether it's I'm grateful that I'm negative today in my account. I'm grateful that I'm positive in my account. If you're negative, that means you have a lot of lessons you're learning right now. If you're positive, that means you learn the lessons the right way. That's what I learned too.
Interesting.
But I just write down what I'm grateful for every day, and that's what's really carried me on every single day. And then remembering that my team's there.
It's powerful.
It's helped me a lot, yeah.
And do you do what you're grateful for and why you're grateful for it?
Yeah. I'll write a paragraph of like what's great about it, why it's impacted me, why I'm excited for it to impact someone else. I'll write all of that stuff. I'll paint the picture in my mind.
Yeah. Because, coming back to the whole Jim Rohn thing, and I've heard this before, they talk that I've heard different things about the best gratitude practice. I've heard it's really powerful to hear gratitude towards you. Andrew Huberman says that that's the most powerful.
Yeah.
But I think it is really powerful as well is to give reasons on why you're grateful. And coming to that point, it's really powerful to be a good writer, because just what you said, and I had a friend that told me this the other day, or I saw his post. He said, if you're a good writer, you're a good thinker, because it's delayed thoughts.
Yeah.
Whatever you put on paper is delayed thoughts. You have to be able to kind of choreograph and organize your thoughts and put it on pen to paper. And they talk about it's so much, it integrates into you so much deeper when you actually write as opposed to typing.
Yeah.
I forget the exact stat or whatever, but it's like you use thousands of mental processes and physical processes as opposed to like hundreds by typing. Something like that. I don't know the exact details, but
yeah.
But
it makes sense because you're processing the word, you're spelling it out. Because it's literally your mind on a piece of paper. Because thoughts fly away.
Yeah.
Like I looked back the other day in my phone. We have the iCloud backups, but I would say the second most storage in my phone is my Apple Notes now, just from like over a year ago. Next is photos, because that's photos, but like the most is like Apple Notes. Is like, wow, like that's a lot of thoughts that I'm glad I saved so I can go back and rethink about them, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned back in there. But yeah, just processing it. So that's why I thought processing gratitude is the best. And then also you have a whole book. Eventually my goal is to have stacks of books of just why I'm grateful. Because then there's your undeniable proof back there of all the lessons you've learned, of why you're at where you're at. And then you can look back and say, like 5 years ago I wrote that I would have, $5, $6, $7, $8, $10,000 a week coming in. And you can look at the exact date on that book, and then you look at yourself for today, and then you'll feel, all right, I am the progress. There's the undeniable proof. Let's go get more.
Let's go get more proof.
Yeah.
That's a good outlook on life.
It's a hard-learned lesson that I'm very grateful for.
Oh, wow. Dude, this has been incredible. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah,
and it's been some time coming. We scheduled this like a while back.
Yeah.
It's
just like fine wine. It takes time.
Oh, exactly. It was funny because it would pop up in my head every once in a while. I'm like, when did we? I thought that was coming up. But yeah, man, dude, I'm really grateful for you, man. I know we hadn't even really connected beyond just like a few DMs here and there.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad. It's interesting. And most of the people I bring on here, I already know to a certain extent.
Yeah.
For the most part, I'm very lucky in that sense, where it's just like I have cool people around me that I already knew that just want to be on.
I think Scottsdale's a great area for that too. There's a lot of outward thinkers,
But it's interesting because there has been a handful of people that have like reached out, or I just like intuitively felt like this seems like
genuine dude.
Yeah, just seems like the smart move.
Yeah.
And just not like strategically, well, I mean, it's strategically, but also just from the heart,
Yeah.
you know? So I that's been kind of, you asked me a little bit more about this before we started. I think, you know, this started because of the same thing, an intuitive decision.
Yeah.
That was like, something called me to start this. And how my life's transitioned and transformed because of it. Because I get to have these conversations all the time.
Yeah.
And coming back to,
you have a very enlightened brain.
oh dude, I have to. I have to do this now because it's like, I can't keep all this stuff in here. Like,
Yeah.
I have to get it out. But I'm just really grateful because like now I've been able to, you know, connect with people and develop relationships that I never would have. I built up this platform, and you know, we're literally just getting started. Like the plans that we have for this, it's really exciting. I haven't even like shared too much with too many people, but we have some big things with this podcast coming up within the next few years. I think is going to be a game changer.
Well, I'm grateful to have a platform to be able to help impact people, because that's my main mission in life. Is I want to impact people at the highest level possible. So I'm grateful that this is a great avenue for me to be on. So I appreciate that.
Of course, man. So one last question is, what are people saying at your funeral?
At my funeral? I hate talking about myself. I've been told, you know, we'll have times where like we edify people, you know, before we start speaking. And I've been told I'm highly committed, put others first a little too much, in a way where it almost is a disservice to me, but which is also a disservice to them at that point, because I'm not able to fill their cup as much as I could have. But I live people first. Just to put it up.
Say that last part.
I live people first.
You lift?
Live.
Live.
I live being people first. That's what I strive to be. And just having that servant's heart and being people first. Because I think that's where people need the most help and have the most impact, is when you're being the best version you can be for other people. That's the highest level of service.
Can't pour into a cup when your cup's empty.
Yep. So you gotta fill yourself up first before you can start to share.
How do you fill yourself up?
Every morning, I wake up and the first thing I do is take a cold shower. So, gotta wake up for the day, become alert. It's better than an alarm clock, because you turn off the alarm clock, go back to bed. So I've made the habit of turn off the alarm clock, then go to the shower, and then turn on the cold water, and just do it. And that wakes me up in the morning. Then the next thing I do is I get into the Word personally. And Proverbs is very good. It's very enlightening. It's very helpful, and how you can serve people, and also just make wiser decisions personally. And then I check my bank account, and I write my gratitudes, what I'm thankful for today, and then I look at what I gotta get done today, and I write down the 5 things that are most important to do, and then I attack it. So that's how I fill myself up every day. And what's cool is when you live that way and serving people, it almost keeps filling you up throughout the day too.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing it right.
I want to share one thing with you, and almost even want to offer a challenge.
Okay.
Because I resonate with what you say about like being a giver, and maybe to a detriment at times.
Yeah.
But there's a guy that I did a podcast with, really smart guy. Actually, we're just finishing it. We're gonna post the episode. We drove out to LA for it at SoFi Stadium. It was so cool.
Awesome.
The guy's name is David Meltzer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And he said that a really key fundamental is being good at giving, but being good at asking. And make sure that you're giving and you're asking every day.
I can get better at that.
Yeah. And because I even asked him, I was like, how do I be a better asker?
Yeah.
And he said, have a go-to ask. So like when people say like, hey, how can I help you? You know, and you know, it's a law of the universe. It's, unless you have an even energy exchange, it's going to put a kink in the system. So if you're giving too much and you're not asking, it kind of blocks the flow.
It's true.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what is your go-to ask?
My go-to ask right now is I'm looking for JV partners for my Just Grow Visions. I don't know do you know much about it?
A little bit, not a lot.
I can tell you a little bit more about it after we get off, but I'm looking for people that have audiences that resonate with what we're doing and that are willing to promote it. And we have a pretty specific way on how to do it. That's kind of like my ask right now. So
Okay.
yeah, if you know anybody,
Absolutely.
let me know.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw that right back at you. And actually, I like doing this because I think this is a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Like we have an audience, and even myself, and I have a lot of people. What's your ask?
See, now I'm on the spot. You've had like months to think about this. My ask is I want to provide a vehicle for people like I was provided. So if you ever know anyone that is looking for an opportunity, and I think one of the hardest things honestly was finding a mentor. If you ever know of anybody that's looking for a mentor, just I'm happy to help them find it, because I know what it's like to not have it. I know what it's like to have it, and I would not live without it. So if you ever need anyone that's looking for a mentor, I would love to help them find that person.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, dude, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
This was an incredible conversation. Anything else you want to share?
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Honestly.
What's the best way for people to connect with you? Is it Instagram or?
Just on Instagram, yeah. That's
Okay.
the best way to connect, and I'm always open to network and serve people any way I can, so my door is always open as much as it can be.
For sure. Cool. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate it too.
Alrighty, my friend. Thank you so much for listening to that episode of the Just Grow podcast. Truly appreciate your time. Know your time is extremely valuable, so to spend it with the Just Grow podcast, we truly appreciate it. If you did get value from this, make sure and share this with at least one friend that can get some value out of this, that can help improve their life in some capacity. With that said, make sure and head over to justgrowvisions.com. You can join our free Facebook group where we go live every Wednesday night, where we have this very systematic structure and framework on how to craft a vision, get very clear on what you want, then turn it into reality very quickly. It's a really cool process. We've helped dozens of clients, and now we have a free Facebook group where you can plug in every single week and just learn how we're doing this, and then connect with amazing like-minded individuals. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Just Grow podcast. Make sure and share this. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.